You're saying to me, Mr. Ram, and forgive my interruption,
Yes.
you're saying to me that the Rajasthan speech by the Prime Minister of India was immoral, it was improper.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the word "it was immoral" is correct.
The word that is immoral, unethical, and against all everything that constitutional morality means, I think that's absolutely, it's unacceptable.
Okay. Immoral, unethical, unacceptable. Would it not be honest and proper for the Prime Minister to actually say, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I apologize"?
Yes, that would be the right thing to do. Not a forced apology, but an apology on your own, seeing what is being discussed out there, and I think that would be that would help. Yes.
So the Prime Minister owes Indian Muslims an apology.
Yes, absolutely. Many apologies. The silence is eloquent. It just speaks to it's being a servile election commission. It's got worse and worse over 3 elections. In this situation, the silence is shocking. It's and we can't find words strong enough to deplore and condemn.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. How should we view Prime Minister Narendra Modi's election speeches? And what should we make of the fact that even after 3 days, the Election Commission has had absolutely nothing to say about them? Those are the 2 key issues I shall raise today with the doyen of Indian journalism, the well-known and highly regarded former editor-in-chief of the Hindu newspaper, N. Ram. Mr. Ram, in the speech he delivered in Rajasthan on Sunday, speaking specifically about Indian Muslims, Prime Minister Modi referred to them as those who have more children, and he called them infiltrators. In your eyes, does this breach the Model Code of Conduct, as well as Section 123 of the Representation of People Act, both of which prohibit the promotion of enmity and hatred between citizens?
Yes, indubitably. It violates the Model Code of Conduct, specifically the clauses 1 and 3 under general conduct. The first clause saying no party or candidate should indulge in any activity which may aggravate the existing differences or create mutual hatred or cause tension between different castes and communities, religious or linguistic. And then clause 3 says, there shall be no appeal to caste or communal feelings for securing votes. So clearly does that. And as for Section 123, I think it's very clear. And Karan, there is an important judgment of the Supreme Court in 2017, which should be brought to people's attention. Abhiram Singh versus C.D. Komachan, where 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court of India is held by a 4-3 majority that Section 123 3 ought to be interpreted and given meaning in a purposive manner, in a broad and purposive manner. In other words, it's not just the particular candidate's religion or the religion of the candidate's opponent that would fall under this section, but any attempt to appeal to this. And there's an important statement here by then Chief Justice Thakur, and I quote, "An appeal in the name of religion, race, caste, community, or language is impermissible under the Representation of People Act 1951 and would constitute a corrupt practice sufficient to annul the election in which such an appeal was made, regardless whether the appeal was in the name of the candidate's religion or the religion of the election agent or that of the opponent or that of the voters." So this, I think, gives us the sense of the thinking of the Supreme Court, and this is the law of the land as it exists.
Tell me, Mr. Ram, beyond the laws, beyond the rules that the Rajasthan speech clearly breaches, do you also believe that in a 21st century secular democracy, it's immoral to speak of fellow citizens in the way Narendra Modi spoke of Indian Muslims? That this is not just a question of law, it's also a question of propriety and morality.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. In fact, that's even more important than the law. Political morality, what Dr. Ambedkar used to call constitutional morality, which I think is above everything else. And if you use that yardstick, this is completely impermissible. But then this cannot be seen in an isolated way, because there are a number of incidents. The whole lead up to the BJP's rise, I think, has been built on this platform, communal hate, appealing to religion, and that violates not just the election laws, not just the model code of conduct, which really has, it's doubtful whether it
But
has
what
any...
you're saying to me, Mr. Ram, and forgive my interruption,
Yes.
you're saying to me that the Rajasthan speech by the Prime Minister of India was immoral, it was improper.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the word "it was immoral" is correct.
The word that is immoral, unethical, and against all everything that constitutional morality means, I think that's absolutely, it's unacceptable.
Okay, immoral, unethical, unacceptable. Now, 24 hours after the Rajasthan speech in Aligarh, Narendra Modi said the Congress manifesto states that a Congress government, and now I'm quoting, will investigate who earns how much, owns how much wealth, and how many houses, and the government will take control of your property and distribute it among everyone. Then he added, they also want to survey how much salaried persons have invested in fixed deposits, how many vehicles they own, how much land they own. They will conduct this survey and seize your property. The truth is that the Congress manifesto says absolutely nothing of the sort. So does that mean that the Prime Minister, when he claimed that the manifesto was making these charges, was in fact lying?
Yes, it is completely untrue. There's a famous phrase used in the House of Commons, terminological inexactitude, in the old days. So it's clearly false. And it falls under the category of disinformation.
Terminological inexactitude was a Churchillian euphemism. Would you accept this was an outright, blatant lie?
Yes, it is false.
A lie? Would you use that word, a lie?
Yes, I would.
Now, the Congress Manifesto is a written document available to anyone who wants to see it. So how wise or foolish is it to lie about its contents when you can be easily revealed to be lying? So was this a wise strategic move, or was it foolish and silly?
Yes, I think it was very unwise, because people have called him out on this. Fact checks have been published, but then they don't care. The whole point about disinformation is you speak to a section, your bucks, and they're not going to consult all this. And even if you publish or bring to their attention on television or whatever, or social media or in print, that this is completely false, they're not going to believe it. That's the premise on which disinformation operates, and so on. But yes, it was unwise for those who follow these things, for those who care about facts, but for the bucks.
One further point, Mr. Ram. Not
Yes.
only is this untrue and a lie, but I believe, and I'm told that under Section 124 this time of the Representation of People's Act, deliberate false information which can have an impact on the elections is also deemed to be a wrong, corrupt practice. So once again, Mr. Modi, in lying and doing so deliberately, is in breach of Section 124 of the Representation of People Act.
Yes, I've not looked at that, but from what you say, this clearly, the speech clearly falls under that section, and I hope the courts will render justice when this matter goes before them.
Now, before I come to the Election Commission, What, as a leading journalist of this country, is your explanation for the Prime Minister's speeches? Does this attempt to divide between Hindus and Muslims, this attempt to deliberately lie about the Congress manifesto, suggest a certain nervousness in Mr. Modi's part? Does it suggest a sort of creeping hint of desperation?
Yes, it does, because if you ask the rational question, why is he doing this? Did he need to do it if he's so confident, if they are so strong? He says we must get 400 seats and so on. If that's the goal, where is the need to do it? So it does raise that question in any rational person's mind. And it does suggest that this is an act of desperation and so on. Yes, it does.
And it's not just once that he's done it. He did it in Rajasthan, he did it in Aligarh, and today, Wednesday, I believe he's done it again. So clearly, this is in his mind a deliberate strategy, and you believe that this deliberate strategy is a reflection of actual nervousness. It's not confidence. It's not just an attack on Congress. It's nervousness about his own party's prospects.
Yes, and in fact, something happened before all this at Nevada and Bihar on April 7th. And he spoke at, and then in Ajmer in Rajasthan on April 6th, he made several references, appeals to incitement of religious sentiment against a political opponent by saying certain parties, particularly the Congress and the RJD, were opponents of the Ram temple. They're being against Lord Ram. They're insulting Lord Ram, and so on. And he clearly appealed to the elections. I mean, the religious symbol of the consecration of the idol of Ram Lala in Ayodhya on January 22nd. So those also fall foul of the Model Code of Conduct and possibly, in fact, certainly sections of the Indian Penal Code, in particular 153A, subclause A and B, and section 505 of the Indian Penal Code. So those also have to be brought in when we are talking about, does it reflect desperation? Why is he doing
Not
this?
just desperation that is reflected in what you just told me, but also further aggravating breaches of the Model Code of Conduct, of the Representation of People Act, and as you pointed out, the Indian Penal Code as well. All three are breached here.
Yes. In fact, Karan, okay, we'll come to that if you have questions.
Let me put it like this.
Election Commission's response, yeah.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Let's come to the Election Commission directly. Multiple complaints have been filed in front of the Election Commission by Sitaram Yechuri of the CPM, by the Congress Party, by Jagdish Chokhar, by Mr. E.A.S. Sarma, just to name those four. There are probably many others. I believe the Congress Party itself has filed as many as 17 complaints. That is what I've read in the papers. 3 days have passed since the Rajasthan speech. 2 days have passed since the Aligarh speech, but we haven't had an official reaction from the Election Commission. How do you view that?
Yeah. The Election Commission has ceased to be an independent body, and this is in direct violation of the order of the Supreme Court earlier, which made a certain suggestion about the composition of the selection committee, if you like, the selection panel for appointing election commissioners. And the government has violated it. It's completely ceased to be an independent body. This has been a process that's been unfolding over time. But then I want to call attention, to take us back to 2014. The Election Commission banned Mr. Amit Shah and also Azam Khan of the Samajwadi Party for inciting hatred, for hate speeches, and the BJP sought a review and so on. Finally, Amit Shah tendered an unconditional apology and he was let off. But from there, this is, it has come to where we've seen, at least in 2014, there was an attempt to penalize, reprimand and penalize, actually act against by banning him from attending rallies by the Election Commission. And today, it's some striking contrast.
Can I put this to you? It's been 3 full days since the Rajasthan speech, 2 full days since the Aligarh speech. Is that not sufficient time for the Election Commission to at least issue a notice?
Yes, it has to.
It's not sufficient time for a judgment and a ruling, but they should at least have expeditiously issued a notice. This is a matter of grave concern, where in the middle of an election, the Prime Minister is campaigning every day and aggravating the situation by repeating what he said on earlier days. So surely, in the 3 days, the Election Commission could have at least issued a notice.
Yes, it was bound to issue a notice, and the silence is eloquent. It just speaks to its being a servile election commission. It's got worse and worse over 3 elections, and yes, it can't plead that it is toothless and helpless under the law. It's got the powers. The Supreme Court has empowered it. The Constitution empowered it. To conduct. It's in complete control of the conduct of the election. It can transfer officials. It can it can issue directives to them. All normal government activity comes to a stop, and we cannot move without the Election Commission initiating this action. So I think in this situation, the silence is shocking. And we can't find words strong enough to deplore and condemn this act. Let's hope. Let's see within the next 2 or 3 days whether it's going to be different.
In 2019, that's exactly 5 years ago, there were multiple complaints that the Prime Minister's speeches at the time were promoting enmity and hatred. But the Election Commission did absolutely nothing, and ultimately Ashok Lavasa resigned and left the commission. Yes. Last year, during the Karnataka elections, the Prime Minister told voters to chant Jai Bajrangbali when they vote. Again, the Election Commission did absolutely nothing, and the matter was allowed to be forgotten. How confident are you that this time round, the Election Commission will act?
I am not confident at all that the Election Commission will act, but the only way of making it act, the only chance they have of making it act is to pile up the pressure, political pressure, and also take this to the people as part of the election campaign. If that happens, who knows? But if they have a hide as thick as they have today, then there's little chance of their acting any better than they've done so far.
On earlier occasions, and you referred to at least one of the occasions a moment ago when you were talking about Amit Shah. On earlier occasions, when the Election Commission has deemed politicians to be guilty of hate speech, which breaches the Model Code of Conduct or the Representation of People Act, they've barred those politicians from campaigning for a day, for 2, sometimes even for 3. Would you say similar action is needed in the Prime Minister's case?
Absolutely, for a much longer duration, because yes, the advantage of being able to use the official means of transport to go to any part of India. So I think there's a certain lack of equity between the way he campaigns and the others do. So I think even for a longer duration, yes.
So you're saying to me that the correct, fitting, and suitable punishment would be barring the Prime Minister from campaigning for 1, 2, or 3 days, or maybe more?
Yes. because there's no limit to what they can do. They can even impose a total ban on further campaigning in the election, on anything that prospective.
Tell me something else. I'm going to quote what Abhishek Singhvi said to the press after the Congress went public with their complaint to the Election Commission. He said, the higher the position a person holds, the greater is the obligation on that person to exercise restraint. And there can be in India no higher a position than the position of the Prime Minister. Do we therefore need some form of exemplary punishment because the offender is the Prime Minister and not an ordinary minister or an ordinary MP or just an MLA? Because of the position he holds, should he be meted with exemplary punishment?
What kind of exemplary punishment?
I leave that to you to tell me.
I think it has to be within the confines of the law and the Constitution. There's political punishment, there's moral censure.
Let me put it like this, Mr. Ram. Does it need to be more severe punishment than would have been given if the same comments had been made by just an ordinary minister?
Yes, which is why I said they have the power to ban the Prime Minister from any further campaigning in the 7th-phase election. One phase is gone. So in the 6 remaining phases, that's the ultimate you can do, and you can work out the actual. They have that power, I mean, and
you're arguing that the punishment, because of the fact that the man is the Prime Minister, the most important position in the country, therefore the punishment needs to be exemplary. It needs to be more than it would be if the offender had been someone else.
Yes, that is correct.
Is this therefore a test of the credibility of the Election Commission?
Yes, to put it mildly, yes, because the way the appointments have been done in such a rush, in violation of the spirit of the Supreme Court's order, the whole thing in blatant violation of this ideal of independence, the concept of independence of the Election Commission, on which the Supreme Court has spoken. So, but we can also raise the question: why didn't the Supreme Court do something about it?
Well, that's a different issue. Let's not get deflected with that. Let me put this to you instead. If this is a test of the credibility of the Election Commission, and your answer was yes, to put it mildly,
yes,
what happens if the Election Commission fails the test? Because you said to me a moment ago, you're not at all confident they will act properly. So what happens when they fail the test?
I think you have to campaign against such packing of the Election Commission of India, and also, Session, whatever his faults, sometimes he overdid it, transform the character of the Election Commission, and subsequent election commissioners have, chief election commissioners and others have done exceedingly, many of them have done very well because they have asserted their independence. Now it's gone back to the pre-session era. So I think there has to be a serious campaign to change this, to get these commissioners either fall in line, or I don't know if they can be removed. They can't be removed.
Election commissioners can be removed more easily because they can be removed on the recommendation of the chief election commissioner, but the chief election commissioner can only be removed by a process of impeachment.
Yes, so that won't happen, but unless the Supreme Court strikes down the appointments themselves of the election commissioner, because that matter is still before the Supreme Court.
Absolutely, but let me ask you this: is this
otherwise you have to do a political campaigning and raise moral issues of the kind you said? It goes against constitutional morality.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Ram: is this a low point for India's democracy?
Yes, it is a low point. But there have been other low points. Many awful things have happened. Hindutva authoritarianism, for one, has taken a heavy toll of Indian democracy, and this is widely recognized by serious.
But this is another low point.
Yes, it is.
Finally, The Wire has revealed that the PMO website does not carry the offensive passages in the English version of the Prime Minister's speech, although they are there in the Hindi version. They've been dropped from the English version, but they're retained in the Hindi. How do you interpret that?
Yeah, so you say different things to different constituencies. The Hindi version is presumably aimed at the Bucks and their constituency, and they want more of this, not less. Whereas in the English version aimed at you and me and many others, perhaps a minority of our population suddenly, it has to be, a message has to be more sophisticated. But I also read that story saying the videos are there.
Quite right. But is this not, in a sense, playing fast and loose with the full truth? The English version doesn't convey the full truth of what the PM said.
Yeah, it summarizes what he said, apparently.
And deletes what he said about Muslims when he said they have more children than us. And again, when he said they were infiltrators, that's deleted.
Yes, but that will be no comfort for them if the notice is issued and the matter properly investigated, because it's there. The evidence is there in the video
is it a hint? Is it at all even the slightest, smallest hint of remorse and regret on the part of the Prime Minister? This is why it's been dropped from the English version?
Well, remorse is too strong a word, but rethinking is possible, perhaps.
Okay.
So you say it in the spur of the moment, and then you sort of rethink, but remorse is too strong a word, given their ideological...
If there is a rethink, and this is not just a question of you and me speculating about it, if there is a real, genuine, heartfelt rethink, would it not be honest and proper for the Prime Minister to actually say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I apologize?
Yes, that would be the right thing to do. Not a forced apology, but an apology on your own, seeing what is being discussed out there. And I think that would be that would help, yes.
So the Prime Minister owes Indian Muslims an apology?
Yes, absolutely. Many apologies for many strikes against.
Okay. I'll end on that note. I just repeat it because I think it is so important. You said the Prime Minister's speech is immoral, unethical, and unacceptable. The Prime Minister owes Indian Muslims an apology. In fact, you said he owes them many apologies. Mr. Ram, thank you very much for making time for me. Take care. And above all else, stay safe.
Thank you, Karan. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and an education also. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.